So we had finished verse number 10 of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and here he was saying that why this body, the Indriyas, Indra is the kind of the boss of this body, the Ishvara as you refer to, and that Jivatma, what are the lingas, what are the markers, how do you identify that there is somebody inside? In fact, the Indriyas are the lingas, as he explained, Madhusudana Saraswati. And this boss, when he goes, he sort of carries them with him. And it occurs that it pulls them together. When it enters another body, it enters another body along with these its own markers, because these are instruments which the Jivatma uses to experience this universe. And so it definitely will have these indriyas. And we have discussed that earlier in Tattvavada and also in the course of Bhagavad Gita. Then he mentions something very tricky. He says that, so in the first sentence, he sort of mentions that these bhunjanamba gunanmitan and this whole thing, because these are trigunatmika, sattva, tama, and rajas, and these indriyas sort of connect with them, and the experience we have are commensurate with what we are connecting with, and in what kind of mindset, what kind of disposition we are placed at a particular moment of time. The same flower can trigger a poem in one person, can make somebody very depressed because that flower might remind him of a past event, which is not very fortunate or not very pleasant. It may turn another person to memory of a temple or a mosque or anything, and he may just like to go sit there and meditate. So it depends on what is the mind, what is mental framework we are in. That sort of determines how these gunas will play out during the experience of external reality through these indriyas. Vimudha nanu pashyanti, that is what we discussed, that Bhagavan is expressing his sadness that my children, they are part of me. Mamai vangsho sanatana, jiva bhuta sanatana. There he has sort of extolled us, saying that you are verily a part of me. That means you are also Suddha Satta Chaitanya Swarupa. You are also immortal and eternal. But you are kind of overcome by the limitations of a conditioned consciousness. This consciousness is conditioned by ahangata and amamata. I am this and it's mine. And therefore, you are not being able to see me. And you are not seeing me. What does that mean? That means you are not being able to see yourself in all its glorious purity, which is actually the very nature of who you are. You are not being able to sort of see yourself. That's why Bhagavan says such people are miserly, because people who do not see their own self are like people who are millionaires who do not want to access the balance sheet to check what is the account balance. So Bimudha na anupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. So they have all the symbolisms, they have all the markers, they have all the reasons to figure out that there is a Atma, that Jivatma is there. But they don't want to go that way. And who can see that? The Jnana Chakshusha, who have some Sastra Agraha, they have studied something, and then they see things happening, and they know why they are happening because of the Trigunas, which are very active. They learn to dissociate themselves, have time to meditate. They have the capacity to go inwards, and they are the ones. And he will explain actually how that happens, how that becomes very easily possible for some people and becomes difficult for others. And that is the next verse. Yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantятman atmanyavasthitam yatanto kritatmano nainam pasyantyachetasah. So he's saying yatantaha, those people who are making some efforts, they are doing some yatna. Yoginaha, but there's a qualification, because earlier also he has given a long set of qualifications as to who is the one who will actually reach that level of Paramam Padam. You remember that verse number 5. Nirmana Moha, free from Mana and Abhimana, Moha and Abhimana. Jita Sango Dosha, free from Indriya Sanyoga, temptations, external temptation. Adhyatma Nityaha, constantly meditating on the self. Vinivritta Kamaha, they have dropped all the desires. Dvenir Vimuktaha, not caught up in the dualities of doubtfulness. Sukha Dukha Sanjayhi, and the freedom from the dualities associated with this is what I like, this is what I don't like, all this. Gachanti Amudhaha, they are the ones who go Param Padam Avyayam. This fifth verse has to be connected with verse number 11. Then this 11th verse will make a lot of sense. He says, Vimudhaha, the mudhas cannot see me. And who can see me? He says, Jnana Chakshusaha, the people who have the eyes of wisdom, who are educated, who are initiated, who know how to make sense of the reality. Not everyone. So they are amudhas, as narrated in verse number 5. So obviously you have to remember all those adjectives and qualifications which are sort of telling us who are most likely to experience divinity. And he's saying that now he's simplifying that, saying Yatonto Yoginaha. These are the guys who are kind of yogis, they're meditating on me. And they pashyanti, enam atmanam pashyanti. They can see the self. They cannot see the self the way they see a dog or a cat or the sun or the moon, because this atma is no different from us. So you are essentially experiencing and meditating on yourself. And pasyanti atmani avasthitam, buddho avasthitam. Atmani would be here buddhi, which through, because here you remember earlier there was a discussion that when that Shuddha Satta Chaitanya is reflected in our buddhi, the Chidabhasha, there is where we have some Vyaktitva, we have an individuality which comes up. With the help of Ahankara, this what appears. Then we see this is X, Y, G, whatever. I am this, I am that. So that Ishvara Satta, that Shuddha Satta gets reflected in that buddhi, that individual, that which is Jiva Parichinna, a kind of limited by this particular human being, whosoever you are. And that Satta Swarupa gets reflected there. And then you have that ego perception with a name and a form, everything. But they are able to remove the adjectives and the tags which are superimposed on that pure consciousness. So, as the Buddhists say, the idea is to practice attention without thoughts. You remain attentive without attending to anything. You just purely remain attentive. Meditate on your own consciousness. Meditate on your meditation. In that sense, they say. And Yatanta, then he's qualifying as to who are the guys, despite hard work that they might appear to do, they are least likely to figure out what is that self. Who are they? He's saying, Yatantopi akritatmanaha. What is a kritatma? We have heard about papatma and punyatma. You know what is kritatma? We have to again connect this with what we have studied in chapter 2, 3, 4. We have to go back. There, Bhagavan had said that the ones who have purified their consciousness through nishkama karma are more likely to have the required sharpness, and that sukshma thing, that atma thing, they are more likely to see it. It's like you have a camera, but you don't have the required lens. You have a very good camera, and there's a bird sitting on a tree on the other side of the river, you on this side. So you and your friend both have costly cameras, but he has that telelens and he captures that bird. And you have a wide angle lens, so you can see the whole thing. You're taking the whole view, but you do not exactly bring that particular tiny bird into focus. That is the difference. So all of us are same. Some people have sharper attention and focus. And these sharper attention and focus are more likely to fructify, materialize in case of human beings who have cleansed their antakarana or internal consciousness through nishkama karma. What is nishkama karma? Karma without craving for results, for the sake of the limited, misunderstood ego, which we confuse as the self. We confuse. Actually, it doesn't help. Okay, it's like we are on a lifeboat and there are five people there on that boat. All of you have to help each other, then you're actually helping yourself. Why? Because it's a lifeboat and all five of you are there. If you try to be selfish, if the boat sinks, all of you are gone. So this whole thing that this Atma, the one who sort of confuses the self as the ego, is the one who damages himself or herself. And that's what Bhagavan says. So he is not a Kritatma. That means he hasn't done enough purification of his consciousness, he cannot see it. Na enam pasyanti achetasaha. So those people who are devoured of consciousness doesn't mean they are in a state of coma. No, that's not what is meant. They do not have the required understanding. They don't have that jnana chakshus, and therefore they cannot see that self. Let's look at the commentary and anything additional they are saying. Kechitu. There are certain other people. Here there is a kind of Bhagavan is kind of sort of hinting that there is a varied degree of success that different sadhakas, different aspirants attain when they seek me. Somebody might actually have God realization, somebody might have a lot of wealth, maybe he is great, he may have a high level of creativity. These are all divine qualities. Depending on whatever we are seeking, God blesses us with different virtues, different qualities. Yatantaha prayatnam kurvantaha, those who are doing yatna, perseverance, hard work. Yoginaha, and they are doing, this is what is yoga. You know, what is yoga? You are trying to sort of control, discipline, and you are doing punar stapanam on that dheya vastu. You know, you are always trying to bring all the horses together and directing them towards the self. Yoginaha cha samahitaha. So he's kind of hinting at that meditative nature is a requirement. Samahita chittaha enam. What is that enam? Which is that? Enam means this. Prakritam atmanam. We are discussing in this prakarana, in this context. What is that? Contextually, enam here means the atma. Pasyanti. Ayam aham asmi iti upalabhante. So what do they get that atma? It's like a small pen, they'll pick it up? No, the Atma is not different from us. I will get my Atma which way? I'll just come back to my own senses. That's it. I'll just wake up to my own senses. So he's saying, Aham ayam asmi. Aham ayam asmi. Ayam pragyanam Brahma. That Brahman. I am that Brahman. That is the understanding a person attains. Iti upalabhante. Atmani swasyam buddhu avasthitam yatantopi. Shastradi pramanihi akritatmanaha. But the akritatma, Sankaracharya is interpreting one way. Other people, Ramanuja is interpreting in a beautifully another way. What he's saying, Shastradi pramanihi akritatmanaha. That means these guys are not verily exposed to Vedantic texts. So they do not know the Upanishads. They are maybe the ritualistic Brahmins. Or maybe somebody is a fighter, somebody is a businessman, somebody is a corporate guy. They never had in time to sit and meditate. And they haven't had any nishkama karma. They always did work for some results. They had great craving and they have restless minds. So even if they want to figure out what is the self, they go and read a book. They buy a book at the airport and they read it. How to find yourself? Okay, 1,000 rupees, good. It's a very good deal. I'll find myself only by paying 1,000 rupees, which is equivalent to getting a good dinner somewhere. They buy that book and they read it, but they don't get themselves. They find it a funny book. The same book, maybe someone else reads and gets a lot of sense out of it. So, Yakrit Atmanaha or Sanskrita Atmanaha, they do not have that Sanskriti, that means that culture which is required. Because it's like there are two brothers, one guy has cultivated his land, another guy hasn't cultivated his land. So he reads some agricultural science book, and there is something called broadcast. There is a showing of seeds, there's a broadcast method. So there is no transplantation. They'll just throw the seeds all over and they will wait for the rain. So maybe there's already rain, moisture level is very high, and there is optimum moisture level in soil. So they broadcast the seeds and wait for it to shoot out, and the shoots come out. It happens. The other one is the traditional transplantation method. They will have it at one place, and after the saplings have emerged, they will transplant them in particular places. Plantation, they'll do that. There are different methods. So the second guy is lazy, so he's just doing broadcasting. But nothing happens. The other guy who is meticulous, he has cultivated his land, he's irrigated it, then he raises the saplings, then he plants them. He gets a very good harvest. This is the difference. He's saying, Asanskrita Atmanaha, right? Tapasa Indriya Yazanena. Indriya Yazayena. So they haven't had that Indriya Jayana. So they haven't won over their senses. The minds are running here and there. In Kathopanishad, there's this mention that you are like sitting and your Indriyas, your manas and all, they are like horses and they are running all around. One is running to the east, another to west, and somebody to. It happens to all of us sometimes. You are about to miss a flight, you are in a traffic jam. Is it a very sweet state to be? You know that you're going to miss the flight, and the traffic jam doesn't give you a way out. So you have lots of thoughts and irritation and anger. So here in life, we definitely go through a lot of things. He's saying Sanskritaha tapasa indriya jayana, through meditation and through dhyana and through the lot of practices, japa and other things, tapasya, they have won over their senses. Cha duscharitat anuparata. And they are again akritatmanakan, means that there are a lot of wrong things and they are not withdrawn from this. Like for example, somebody is doing a lot of good yoga and dhyana and everything, but at the same time that fellow has a few gambler friends. I mean, that is actually seen in quite a few cases because of purva sanskara. So he is doing all puja and everything. I mean, I have seen that individually in a few cases. And in all of us, you may find that despite all our spiritual inclinations on, there could be a few inherited sanskaras. Like, for example, somebody loves coffee. It's not required to have 4 or 5 coffees, but he may just go on having those set of coffees. Somebody may be fond of reading a particular kind of story books. You have these purva sanskaras, they can come back. But here he's saying that duscharitat anuparata. But if there is something wrong thing that you shouldn't do, there is a pratisiddha karma and you are doing it, okay, then asantar darpatmana, and then they are not peaceful, and they have that darpa, that dambha, adambhitva, they don't have that quality. Where Bhagavan has mentioned already, you have to cultivate a few qualities if you want to know what is the Ketra, Gyan, Ketra, the difference that he mentioned. And that guy doesn't have that. So he has arrogance, he has egotism. So prayatna kurbanto teir na pasyanti achetaso avivekinaha. So this atma by them is not easily noticeable. That's what he says. I think that is straightforward, very simple. If we look at Madhusudana Saraswati, is he saying anything new? We will quickly have a. So he's saying Nyaya Grihita Sastre Anisham Sravanadina Yatnam Kurbatam Api Kechid Pasyanti Kechid Na iti Tatra Ko Hetu iti Apekhyam Aha. This is a beautiful way he puts it. I mean, there are two students who go and enroll in a coaching center for a competitive examination or maybe to pick up a foreign language. And after 6 months, what happens is that one guy qualifies. He completes that course and he's successful, goes away with the skill sets he wanted to acquire, while the other one cannot do it. And what is the difference? It's quite, could be he has certain other responsibilities, he has a job, or maybe he has a few distractions, or he was not ready for it. There could be hazar explanations of it. And that is what he's explaining. Yatantaha kiechit yatnam kurvantu yoginah samahita chittaha enam prakritam atmanam Atmani sosyam buddho avasitam pasyanti aham asmiti upalappan. So he has just picked up the whole sentence of Sankaracharya. I am that. They realize it because they are samahita chittaha. They have a very, very tranquil mind. And then what happens? So pasyanti cha avadharane nischayatmika. So he's saying chetasa. So he's saying that cha, he's saying that this is, where is that cha is? Ah, Jatantu Yoginah Cha Enam. Cha, that Cha, what is there? Why that Cha is there? He's saying Cha Avadharani. Avadharana means Nischaya. Definitely you are doing it comprehensively. Yatatma, Yatamanaha, those who are doing this yatna or abhyasa. Api Akritatmano. What is the Akritatma here? You see, in Madhusudana it is slightly different. He's saying Yagyadi Vir Asudhita Antakaranaha. So their mind is not pure. They haven't done any ritual. So suddenly they're jumping to Vedanta. They don't do any japa. They don't do any prayer. Okay. So they're kind of very presumptuous. But it doesn't work that way. A few spiritual activities are very helpful. So a bit of meditation, bit of prayer, and bit of japa or maybe yogic exercises. These are all very helpful because yoga is a dwara for jnana. That is what has been explained again and again. And this bhakti is also a dwara. It's all kind of, they go together. You cannot dissociate one from other. And just there's a, it's quite possible that somebody has no good habits so far spiritualism is concerned, but he's quite a cerebral guy, very bright, so he reads Vedanta and understands. He can also explain it, but doesn't have anything to do with God. He's not even interested. Quite possible. There are quite a few like that, especially a lot of foreigners, even Indians who are teaching Vedanta. They may not be interested in it. They are professors in the university, they have a good job, and they enjoy teaching philosophy and they're teaching it. It doesn't mean that they have received some wisdom regarding how to get God. No, none of that. So that is what is saying that they are not Jagya Divi. So Jagya Asodhita Antakaranaha. Ataeva, acheta. So therefore they are called having without consciousness. Vivek sunyaha, acheta so means vivek sunya. They don't have the necessary discrimination, viveka. Na enam pasyanti iti mudhaha nanu pasyanti ityetad vivaranam. So he completed is very good without going very deep into it. And we are done with the verse number 11. Now, from verse number 12 till 12, 13, 14, and 15. There is Bhagavan is going to tell us after this. Now let's look at how Sankaracharya explains. He's saying that now he's saying this is a very difficult thing to get, this Atma. Some people get it because they have the prior qualification, they have certain knowledge, they have a aspiration, they have some opening, they have antakarana. The others find it very difficult. And therefore, to motivate us to try and understand him, all of us are not at the same level of spiritual aspiration or effort. Aspirations are different because of our purva sanskaras and present conditions, and the capacity is also different because of purva abhyasa. Somebody has done more abhyasa, somebody has done less abhyasa. Now, going forward, Bhagavan wants everybody to be happy. And the way to be happy is to, in a way, connect with one's own self. And how to connect with one's own self, then you have to have some game plan how to sort of understand that connecting with divine and connecting with the self is one and the same thing in Vedanta. That has been made clear so far. And therefore, now he has to do the prakaras, and Bhagavan says, in order to motivate him, he's reminding him of all the vibhutis he has earlier mentioned in chapter, if you remember, in chapter 8 and chapter 12, he has mentioned his vibhutis because he sort of, in chapter 10, he has mentioned all this greatness, why he's, how he's the best, among the Vedas, and the highest, tallest among the mountains, the most fragrant among flowers. He has done all that before, isn't it? So he's repeating a few elements of those things that he has given us earlier to motivate us. That look here, I have told you earlier, I'm repeating it again. So again and again he's repeating because lest we forget. It's like a mother sort of telling the son, Beta, यहाँ पे breakfast रखा है, you must find your time during your lunch break and have it. Don't play. The mother tells the boy 20 times. Still, the boy, one fine morning, or the girl, sometimes she returns with the breakfast packet in the bag. She or he hasn't consumed it. Many of us used to do that. Similarly, Bhagavan is telling us, like a mother, please understand, this is difficult to get. I am that, and try to reach me. And he's now going to narrate his vibhutis in the next four padas. And don't confuse Bhagavan as a marketing guy who's kind of talking about himself. Like a lot of gurus these days, they advertise and they tell their disciples to kind of talk about them. A lot of companies sell their products. Bhagavan is not doing that. Bhagavan knows that knowing the self is in our interest. The Vedanta is not about advertising because it's not talking about anyone else. It's about you and your business with yourself. Therefore, no God selling, no religion selling here. So, no missionary activities whatsoever. So, Bhagavan is very straightforward. He's telling in the next four verses. Let's look at how he's setting the introduction for the verse number 12. Yat padam sarvasya avabhasakam api इष्यादि इष्या the adityadikam yotim na avabhasayate. So that particular thing is sarva avabhasaka, but the sun and the moon and others cannot light that up. That he has mentioned earlier, right? And he's saying, Jyoti na avabhayase yat praptasya mumukhyava, and getting that paramapada, that ultimate destination of our spiritual journey, punaha sansara abhimukha na nivartante. They don't come back to sansara. Why? We have discussed that earlier. Like if the reflecting surface which is there, which reflects the sun, is removed, the sun is where it was, but we said the sun has returned. That is what is moksha. The avarana and the vikshepa, the faulty understanding that we are the jiva, is removed. Then we have moksha. We don't have to come back. So here in Vedanta, the spiritual journey, the destination is yourself only. As I keep repeating, and all the Vedanta teachers will tell you the same thing. So the beginning point of the journey is the self, and end point of the self. The beginning is the less clean self, which is not self aware, not transparent. And the end point of the journey is the transparent, pure, happy self. That is the difference, nothing else. And then what he's saying that na nivartana jasya padasya upadi bhedam anuvidhyamana jiva, and this jiva, that I'm a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, anything, that it's kind of names and forms imposed on that. It's like we say that this bottle, the space inside the bottle is bottle space. Actually, it's pure space. You break the bottle, where does the space go? Similarly, these jivas, we are with these names and forms, we are different from each other. That pure consciousness in you and me and others is just one pure consciousness. All of us are in that sense. This is the best vision we can have about humanity and the whole cosmos, because all of us are just part of one fundamental reality, which is not what it appears. The pure thing has no name and form, no dualities. Padasya sar, and then he's saying Yasya Padasya Upadibedam Anuvidhyamana Jivaha Ghatakasa, like that Ghatakasa, Patakasa, space within different limitations. Iva Akasasya Angsaha Tasya Padasya, as if they are parts of the sky. No, sky has no parts. So the jivas are not part of that Param Brahman. Oh, there is only Param Brahman. Jiva is just a name appended to it. Padasya sarvatatmam sarva vyavahara padatvam cha vivakshuhu chaturvi slokehi vibhuti sankshepam aha Bhagavan. So in the next four verses, Bhagavan will talk about that paramam padam, which is difficult to attain and which should be attained, because he mentions two words, sarvatmatvam. That self we realize, and we realize our sarvatmakata, the all pervading nature of that pure consciousness. It's a grand vision of who we are. And then vyavaha, So it dominates in the picture. That is what he's saying. So you got to understand that this is the most important thing. So that is how he's saying that is why, because it is atyanta prakasham atyanta bhaswaram. It's very luminous, and ataha tatreva avistharam. So therefore, it's kind of mentioned because it's all comprehensive. That light of the sun, jyotihi iti tad vishishyate. That is special. Nanu tatreva tad adhikamiti. Essentially saying that is more in sun. Yathahi loke tulyebi mukha sanstane na kasta kudyado mukham avir bhavati adar sadhu tu swachhe swachhatare taratamyena avir bhavati tadvat. Now, you see, if you look at a wall, maybe you can see your shadow. You look at maybe there's a window pane and it's a night. You look at the window pane, maybe your face reflects a little better. Then you look at a wooden panel, or maybe there's a door. It's a wooden door, but maybe very, you know, well polished. Maybe you can see your shadow. Maybe you can see your face in extraordinary conditions. But if you go and stand in front of a mirror, depending on how good is that mirror, you're going to see your face in an extremely exact manner. Of course, the sides will be reversed. But then similarly, he's saying Tadvat, reflection is there in all objects, but you can see your face only in a mirror. Same way, all other things also have the ability to light up things, but not like the sun. And Bhagavan says that the sun inherits from me. In Madhusudana, more or less the same thing he says, and therefore I'm not going to repeat everything. So just last thing, tena ityukta punah tejo. So that tejo word he has mentioned tejo. If you look at it, yes, I'm sorry. Yat aditya gatam teja. That is once, and then Chandramasi Sagno tat tejo is that teja is there twice. Why is he mentioning it twice? That he's trying to explain here. Yat adityagatam teja ityukta punah tat tejo vidhi mamakam iti tejo grahanat yad adityagatam tejaha prakashaha paraprakasha samartham. That kind of it, you see something is luminous, but another, I mean there are five luminous things. One has the ability to present itself but also light up others. So it has higher density of luminosity and ability to show other things, illuminate other things. That is what he's saying. Sita Bhaswara Rupam, white and very luminous. Jagad Akhilam Rupavad Vastu Avabhasayate. So Rupavat, what is Rupavat? So Teja has Rupa, Rupavat Vastu. Teja is the quality of of fire. Rupa is the quality, because I mean anyway, so that's a long distance of panchabhutas. They say that sound is in akasha, sparsha is the quality of air, and rupa is the quality that it is visible of teja, and rasa, taste, is in water, and then smell is in earth. Smell means all other qualities will be there in earth. In Akasa, there is only one sound, but we'll not go into the details because that is for another day. Now he's saying Anyatha, and then for Sita Bhaswaram Jagata Aslam Rupavad Vastu Avabhasayate Evam Yat Chandramasi Yat Agno Jagat Avabhasakam Tejaha Tanamamakam Vidhi iti Kathanaya Dityo Api Artho Drashtabhya. This would be a second meaning, and that one he's saying is Chaitanya, which Shankaracharya has already mentioned, that Jyoti and Chaitanya. Anyway, so let's go to the first meaning is that Teja, simple fire, Aditya Gaja Teja. The second one he's trying to interpret, and that is perhaps very that is very accurate. He's saying that we should understand that is Chaitanya Swarupa, which Shankaracharya also mentioned. Now, he is now talking about his another vibhuti, another greatness. Why is he talking about it? Because we are very dull minded. He's not trying to boast about himself. He's not different from us. Why should he boast? Because he is not the God in a traditional sense. We are talking about Advaita Vedanta, and actually there is just one Satta Swarupa Chaitanya. only one. Jiva Ishvara, no different. But sadhana kala, during upasana, of course, we have to see God as different. Otherwise, there'll be nothing. So he's now talking about in the next verse how he himself is becoming Mother Earth to hold all of us. Because he's Sarva Bhrit. He's Sarva, he's a Palana Karta. He's the father and mother of all of us. You know. So he's saying in the next verse, verse number 13, what does he say? Gamavishya cha bhutani dharayamyahamojasa puspami chausadhi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha. Gam avishya. Gam is actually cow, right? So it's not cow here. Gam here means, go here means Prithvi. Actually, gachati iti go, whatever moves. Here ga means actually Prithvi. Gam avishyata bhutani. So he's saying that, look here, do you know who is holding the earth together? Because there was this doubts in the mind of people how the earth doesn't break into different pieces. So Bhagwan is verily saying that the gravitational force that we are talking about is actually one aspect of me. That gravitational energy. Who gives gravitational energy? We studied that Newtonian law of universal gravitation. Who gives that law? It's all God. Comes out of that one divine entity which is all over. That simple principle which lays down all principles for all processes in this cosmos. So he says that Gam Avishya cha Bhutani Dharayami Aham Ojasa. It's by my own energy. And let's replace this word Oja with gravitational force. This earth could break into pieces and nothing will hold. And end of the day, these are sand particles or earth particles. What holds them together? That magic. That is what Bhagwan says is through me. And Puspamich Ausadhi, and all these plants. Ausadhi specifically here means that anything which sort of it fructifies, then it ripens, then the whole plant dies. So Brihijavadi, rice and paddy and wheat and all these crops, these are Aushadhi as per Sanskrit. Aushadhi, and because he's kind of telling us, I'm not only Mother Earth, because I also feed you through the crops. Because what? Puspami, I actually allow these crops to flourish. Puspami cha Aushadhi sarvaha. And then after taking food, what do? You drink some water. He's saying, Soma Bhutva Rasatmaka, whatever is Rasatmaka, I am the one who is pervading all of this. I am the nectar of all the rasas. And that you drink and you quench your thirst, you feel good when you're on a hot summer day. Don't forget me. It's me. I'm kind of quenching your thirst. If you are very thirsty, I'm there to quench it. If you are very hungry, I'm there to feed you. And when you are tired, I'm going to give you my lap to sleep on me. So Bhagavan is saying, I'm your dad, I'm your mom. At the same time, he's taking care of us. And he's explaining that Kincha Gamiti Gam Prithivim Avishya Pravishya Dharayami. Is Bhagavan doing all this? He's kind of becoming like a shadow god entering into earth. No, literally, these things are not meant here. Because in Vedanta, these are manners of speaking. Bhagavan is talking about in a language of duality. Because what is meant here is that God principle, that divine principle, that Brahman is all pervasive. It's everywhere. And is Sarva Niyamaka, is the boss. With his will, everything happens. And therefore, he is indirectly saying, whatever you see as useful to you, remember the secret of his usefulness is in my hands, is derived out of my grace. So, whatever you require for your sustenance is supported and sustained with my grace. But you don't have time for me. Bhagavan is kind of saying, oh, my children are so mudha, they're so dull. They don't have time, they can't even see me. It's like a mother says, बच्चे तो मेरे बारे में कभी नहीं पूछते हैं. Sometimes the mother is very tired. She gets upset. कभी सोचा मम्मी क्या कर रही है? She kind of gets very tired. She gets angry with the children. Similarly, God is saying, nobody cares about me. So Bhagavan says, do you know I take care of you, I feed you, and I quench your thirst and everything. Gam prithivim avishya pravishya dharayami bhutani jagat aham ojasa valena, with my power, my energy. Yadvalam kamaraga vivarjitam. This power of me is not with any intention to dominate over you, win over you, have you as my disciple or anything. No. Aishwaryam, Ishwarasya Bhava. That Aishwaryam, that is the beauty of me. That is what I am. Jagat, Jagat Vidharanaya, Visheshana Dharaya, just to sort of hold all of us. Vidharaya, Prithivyam Pravishta Yeno Gurvi, Prithivi, Na Adha Patati, Na Vidiryati Cha. So it doesn't split into two parts and it doesn't fall anywhere. It doesn't move away from its own movement, that path, and it sort of encircles the sun. It doesn't go anywhere. If it goes anywhere, what happens? We'll be out of the solar system and then we'll die of cold because we'll not get any sunlight. Tatha cha mantra varnaha yena dyohu ugra prithvi cha dridhaha. So by that God, by that Ishvara, by whom this Dyohu Ugra, this whole Akasa, this whole Dyuloka, you have lightning and then you have rain and everything all happens because of his own command, because of his grace. Prithvi cha dridha, and this Prithvi holds us. Iti sadadhara prithivim ityadibhischa. So all these are taken from Taittiriya Brahmana 418. अतः गाम आविश्य च भूतानि चराचराणि धारयामि इति uktam. So this is logically very nicely put, and you got to understand this, that I am the one who is giving you sustenance. Kincha pruthivyam jata ausadihi sarva brihiyavadyaha. So brihi, yaba, all these are ausadhis. Puspami, pushtimati, rasa swadumatischa. I give that beautiful taste, whether it's an apple or an orange or a lemon or so many plums or it's sugarcane. Who is giving the rasa in all of this? Me. And all the crops that you harvest and you make your cakes and this and that, where it's coming from? Me. I am the one who is making them possible for you to harvest. So matischa karomi soma bhutva rasatmaka somah sarva rasatmako rasa swabhava. So, that Soma rasa. Soma is actually a Soma lata, which is available in South India. It's a little intoxicating. So, people used to take Soma rasa. A lot of people say that they were taking alcohol. No, in the Yajna Kriyas, in the Vedic Yajna Kriyas, and there is a whole difficult process. Nobody is doing that Soma Yaga these days. So, the rasa is taken. There will be a bit of, you have to take a calf and then, it'll be a certain age. It will be of a certain age. It has to have a certain color, brownish color, and then ekahayanya. So it should have only 1 year old. That calf, female calf, you have to give, and in exchange you have to get somalata from that guy who has cultivated it. And then there is a certain bargain process. You take it, and the wife is supposed to take out the juice, and it is kept in a particular container. Next day there is a yaga where this juice is offered along with other herbs, and then a little is left, whatever is considered as prasada. And that, people say that having taken that, we have got immortality. A lot of people say that they got intoxicated, were happy. A lot of Western scholars have fun making nonsense out of this. Not sense, but nonsense. But anyway, that's fine. That's not a problem. The truth of the matter is that these are complicated Vedic rituals. So the Somarasa is kind of glorified. So he's saying, Rasa Swabhavaha Sarva Rasanam Akaraha Swomaha. Akara means what? Khan. You know that. It's like, it's the place where it's the mother of all. It's Khan is what? How do you say this? It's a mine. It's a mine of all the tests, that Somalata, that Somarasa. So Bhagavan is saying, I am very the one, that essential element, which is giving tests to different kind of liquids, what the rasas that you are tasting. and you're sustaining, resuscitating your physical system with the help of these liquids. And then Sahi Sarva Ausadhi Swatma Rasanupraveshena Puspati. So he says, Pushnati. So what he's saying is that I'm the one who sort of enter into all of that, and I give you the food and the water and all the resuscitating juices. That's what he's saying. That is verse number 13. And then I think we are reaching the end of it, but we'll just do the verse number 14, maybe explanation we can do it tomorrow. Now, the verse number 14 deals with the whole process of digestion. And I was telling that chapter 15 is generally recited before we take our lunch in different ashrams and temples. So he's saying that, Bhagavan is saying that that ability to digest things, that fire of digestion, is also verily me. So it's not only that fire of the light which lights up the whole universe, but I'm the one which is the gravitational force. I'm the life force which gives that life sustaining elements in the crops, in different kinds of corns. I'm the one who gives taste into different kinds of juices and fruits that you consume to sustain yourself. And then he's saying, I'm the one who enable you, after you have taken this food and you have drunk all those liquids and juices, I enable you to digest them and transform them into what? Transform them into subjectivity. Why he's saying all this? Please understand, I have given you a mind, but you are not using it to meditate on me, to meditate on the truth. And what is that truth? That you are no different from me. You are verily mine, and I am yours, but you don't realize it. So Bhagwan is very sad. He's doing abhinaya because he has no emotions actually, but he's very compassionate, like a mother playing with a little baby, trying to talk like a baby. Bhagwan is talking to us. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasritah Pranapana Sama Yuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. Arna is of four kinds, and we'll discuss that. Aham Vaishvanaro, that Vaishvanar Agni, that name of that Agni, which is Jataragni, which helps us, that bile system in a way, which helps us to digest things. Praninang Dehamastitaha. I take, that particular thing, that fire, which is there as part of the physical system of all of us. He's saying prana pana samayuktaha, prana and apana. It's kind of that particular complex system is there with help of which the whole system, we breathe in and breathe out, and the whole system sustains. Pachami annam, I digest. Whatever comes, I cook that up. And I take out the sara, the ingredients, the vitamins, the chemicals, the proteins, everything, and I sustain your physical thing, and I sustain your mind, because I have to prepare you to figure out who you are. You are not different from me. You are not different from pure consciousness. But you are caught up in a system. That's not a problem. Pachami Arnam Chaturvidam. And what are the Chaturvidam? That we'll discuss tomorrow in great detail. But very briefly, it's called Bhojya. Bhojya is like kheer. It's like rabidi, whatever you can just take. Bhojya and Bhaksha is what you have to bite. Anything hard. And then there is something called chorsha or apya. It's like something you drink or something which you have to suck out. It's like sugar cane, or there are certain fruits where we chew and we throw out, and the fiber and all we only take into us the juices out of it. That is what is chorsha. And then finally there is something called lehya, like honey. So you lick it like ghee or honey or anything. So these are four kinds of foods which people take. And then I'm the one who enables all of you to digest that. So we are staying here for the night, and we'll meet tomorrow and take it forward. I'll be putting an end to the YouTube, and any questions you can ask on the Google Meet.